Hi, welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. Well, we're working on show 142 as we get towards the end of the season. All the big races are completed, but we had a chance to have some fun this week. We got all the way down to North Cape Yacht Club for the T10 Tartan Champion North American Championships. And we're going to take you inside those and have some conversations with some of the Backus sisters, some of the best females that have sailed around these Great Lakes. Trey Sheehan will join us, obviously the winner. It's his fifth overall title, 2 in a row. He won it last year. I think it'll be an interesting conversation. We'll have those conversations too about why people like the Tartan 10 so much. Built in 1978, and I think the biggest reason is they enjoy it because it's inexpensive and it still provides for a great opportunity. We're here at Crescent, as we always are, and we're getting ready. They're getting ready for Thursday night. I think that'll be interesting and fun. And another race. We had a chance to time with Hadley and Charlotte Langolf from Sandusky, Ohio. They were representing this area for U.S. sailing in the Sears Cup out of San Francisco Bay and at St. Francis Yacht Club. They finished 18th out of 20, but this is the first time in 73 years anybody from the Sandusky Yacht Club has represented their organization, and I think that's a pretty terrific thing, and we'll get a chance to talk to them a little bit about their program. So we've got lots coming and lots going, and we'll be back in a second.
At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job, it's our promise.
Welcome back. We're having a good opportunity to talk to two unbelievably good sailors from the Sandusky area, Charlotte Langolf and her sister Hadley, who competed in the Sears Cup. And we're going to go all through the specifics. What I find interesting is you were all the way out to San Francisco, one of the toughest places to sail, St. Francis Yacht Club, and certainly the San Francisco Bay. You broke a record. 72 years, nobody's gone from Sandusky out to the Sears Cup. And we'll get into what the Sears Cup is. But you just competed, and it's a 3-man race in a J22, and I wanted to mention Cameron Burt and Molly Keene, who are also part of the trip. Obviously, I'm talking to you two. I guess let's start from the beginning. Well, how was the trip?
The trip was great. I mean, besides sailing, there's so much fun stuff to do in San Francisco, and more than that, the sailing was even better. I think that is hands down the coolest sailing I've ever done in my entire life. Between the tides, which are so strong, and then the fog on top of it, it was like ominous, and it was hard, and it was very cool. Huge wind, big wind.
Stepping into the St. Francis Yacht Club is a little different too, because that's one of those like Chicago, like New York. It's a very obviously prestigious club.
Yes, very.
Nothing against the clubs we belong to here. I'm a Crescent guy. Obviously, you belong to Sandusky, but that's royalty to say the least, right? Is that fair?
Yeah. In the first day with the skippers meeting, we went over all the yacht club rules. No phone calls inside. No guys could wear hats. No denim. I was like, whoa. I mean, we needed a handbook.
Yeah. I wouldn't work very well with my bald head on top. I'm wearing one whether you like it or not. So it's just you obviously have your really good sailors locally and obviously regionally. This race is broke up into 11 regions across the country.
Yes, correct.
You're representing Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. What other state am I missing?
Little bit of Pennsylvania and a little bit of New York.
Okay. So when you step out, you guys were 18th of 20th, obviously stepping in a different class. But if you look at your times through the U.S. Sailing process, you guys, even though you finished sort of at the bottom, your times were right there. You weren't that far off. So it must have been a really good competition for all of you.
Very good. Jonah?
It was very, very close racing. We did it in groups of 6 or 7. And so that just very, very short races, like no longer than 15 minutes. So
a 20-minute time cap on every race.
So every race was just, I mean, it got to those downwind finishes. It was just whoever could take the waves the best. They were crazy close, and it was definitely great competition to
Were
start
you,
with.
and I don't want to say this in the right, I want to say this the right way. Where you kind of went in, going in and maybe a little intimidated because it's a national in that kind of a setting, and then we found out early that wow, you're not as far behind, or was it? Did you always have the confidence? What was your mindset going into the race?
Honestly, we went into the qualifier and we qualified and we said, well, we're just gonna go out there and have fun. The whole concept, we only went to just go have fun and meet more people. We didn't care about winning. We knew we weren't gonna win. We wanted to get better and have fun. And once we got out there, obviously, I've been at this event in the past. The stories you hear from some of these sailors, like some of these kids are winning like 420 nationals for all of US sailing, or they're or whatever it is, VXs, or they're doing trans packs. Like these kids have some of the coolest sailing stories I think I've ever heard of. And they, a lot of them honestly sail year round. They 365 days a year, they're in a boat.
Yeah.
So we knew we couldn't win it, and we knew we were gonna lose to some people, but we honestly just wanted to have fun and learn from the people who are better than us.
Charlotte, what do you know now that you didn't know going into the race?
I did bow, which I don't really do. I did it for when we went to this last year and then when we did it this year. So, I mean, I learned a ton about bow, just really getting motions better, and especially in that big of wind, the jibes are just so much more important to get those done quick. And I think even just how to sail in wind that big on that kind of boat, because I have sailed in wind that big, but never on a J22, which are just really hard boats to sail
They're tiny.
in general.
Who
They're
was skipper?
for
Who was
sure.
skipper? Charlotte, who was skipper? You or your sister?
Cameron
Burke was our
Burke was our skipper.
Okay. Just to give you a little understanding, San Francisco Bay is a whole different animal than what you're used to, certainly in the Great Lakes.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, completely.
I've had the good fortune of having lived in California 15 years of sailing up there, and
Oh wow.
you strap your big boy pants on.
Oh yeah.
It's a completely different animal. I mean, it can blow really hard, really quick.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
we had, I think probably, well, John Pierce told us we had the broach of the regatta. We did put the spreaders in the water, actually. So that was, I mean, I've never put a kite up in that type of wind on that squirrely of a boat before. So, I mean, we learned from it though. No one was hurt. The boat was fine. We have no down payments on boats in St. Francis, but I mean, we all came up from it laughing. So overall, it was we learned a lot about ourselves, definitely, and about conditions and specifically big, heavy air that's consistent.
Sears Cup is one of the nation's oldest sailing championships. It started all the way back in 21, and sailing is one of those sports that has all kinds of trophies for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
And have been around for a lot of years. I know there was the famous story of the Queen's Cup. It literally got lost in a guy's garage for 40 years in Toledo because he was the last guy to win it. And when he was cleaning out after he died, his son found it and returned it back to the Southside Yacht Club after it had been in this guy's garage for 40 years. But the point is, here's the point I want to get back to is, do you have a sense of history of how important this race is? Or does it matter to you?
We've learned it over the years, or like as we hear about this. I honestly, a couple of years ago, I had no idea this regatta even existed, but the more I learn about it and the scale that we are sailing on is just incredible. Like, so I wouldn't say it doesn't matter to either of us, but I think we learned more about it just recently. Like, I don't remember growing up and being like, oh, the Sears Cup. Like, so that it was definitely new, but I love the history of the event.
Okay, you guys have obviously had this great success this summer. I'm assuming, Charlotte, you're a what, sophomore in high school?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you've got a future. I'm not suggesting that Hadley you don't have, but what's for individually for both of you, what's maybe the next step?
I mean, the next step for me is to get into college and figure out where I'm going. That's like the big thing in front of me. Whether I sail or whether I go to school to sail or whether I go to a school and then sail there, all dependent. I'm not dead set on anything yet. I'm just trying to figure it all out as I go. I mean, obviously, I want to go somewhere where there's water so I can sail given the option. And keep doing Mackinaws, keep sailing on keelboats, and just keep seeing what happens.
Yeah, is there a future in sailing for you, or is it just a hobby you enjoy in the summer?
I mean, I would say there's definitely a future with it. Like, I love racing competitively, and I sail high school in the fall. I play lacrosse in the spring, so I don't sail in the spring, but I will continue to do it competitively for as long as I can. And honestly, on a big competitive scale, like more than just a Wednesday or a Sunday series, like keep doing what the big shots are doing, hopefully.
Charlotte?
I think pretty similar to Hadley, but I obviously have a few more years in high school. Maybe do a little bit of high school sailing before Hadley graduates, but probably after that I won't. I would say just stick with doing keelboat stuff. Again, Mackinac, Mills, basically any keelboat I can get on and do a race, I'll do it.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, and congratulations for having this great opportunity and for representing the Great Lakes in a terrific way. So thanks.
Thank you so much.
At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job, it's our promise.
Welcome back. We're talking with one of the best sailors, I think, maybe in the Midwest, and if not the country. We're talking to Wally Cross. Well, last week we talked about sort of the premise and the process of brain and how the brain works and we talked a little bit about the pre-event and the practice in the boat. Now let's talk about specifically how you take that confidence and that process and apply it. You've done all of your practices on the sailing. Everybody's communicating, but now communication at some point has to have a value and, more importantly, a result. How do you result all the process, and where does the brain work, and where does the brain maybe get lost in that process when you come to race day? Because we've just had 2 back races, and as we pointed out last week, guys are now still sitting at the bar complaining about what they did and what they didn't do, and also complimenting themselves on the same process. So how do you process the pre-aspect to a race day?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. No, the pre-aspect is all about getting yourself physically and mentally prepared to race the boat. And once we get into that race time, and the race time usually starts a period before the racing, let's say 2 weeks, you start going through a system, a process to just bring enough data in so that when you are out on the race course, you have that confidence that we talked about to make not only proper decisions, but proper sail trim and so forth to perform the boat as well as possible. So we go through a series of checklists. What's the first on the checklist? Of course, the weather. Everybody's got ideas about the weather, and we're fortunate on this boat to have that Starlink antenna connection, so you always have internet on board. We have a very good navigator with Peter Griffin that would bring all this information in, which is super, super helpful, and determine not only where you go, when you go. Things like routing. Routing is where you take the boat's performance and you combine it to the weather predicted, and it kind of gives you that little triptych. Back when, remember AAA when you were driving down south?
Sure.
That's what routing does, and it's not always right, and by no means is it perfect, but it's just clues. So all we're trying to do in that pre-race is develop as many clues as possible. Physically, what we're trying to do is make the boat as fast as possible. So the boat's always out of the water before the race. This boat didn't go in the water until Friday morning before the Saturday start, because we just made sure for the week prior that the bottom was perfect. We coated it with a nice ceramic polish and made this boat, in our minds, as fast as, if not faster than any other boat out there.
We used to use crappy wax, and they used to put Prel soap on the bottom of skis.
Okay.
And it turns out it works. Eventually, it doesn't work because you got to keep putting Prel on, and that's all fine and dandy. It gets to be a pain in the butt. But if the guy thinks it's true, sometimes you ski better, just because it's that thought process, and confidence comes from what you believe.
Exactly.
From that standpoint. And I think that's something that kind of plays here.
Yeah, and for me, I tell everybody, look at I don't care how perfect the bottom is. Before the start, we're jumping in the water and we're going to wipe down the water line, and I always put like a rubber band on the prop. And this bottom was perfect before we went to the race course. But Greg, you know what was interesting? So when we did that up in Port Huron before the start of the race, we dove down and cleaned the bottom and went to put the rubber band on the prop. We found that we somehow caught a fishing lure, a big one, and we just had a bundle of fishing line around the sail drive where the propeller is. So that took a half an hour to cut off. Things like that, you discover, you go, oh my gosh, you know what? We've really made what we think is the best decision, and ultimately making the boat as fast as possible before the race starts.
Okay, on board, and we talked about this in the last episode, is, you know, the process and being a little more quiet and deliberate is important. Does that usually start with the skipper?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely it does. It starts with anyone that has that head position, right? But I mean, the whole team at this point is prepared to sail with a system. And what I mean by a system is that everyone has a job at the beginning of the race, but our system evolves as the race goes on. Every hour, primary positions change. We have a system for resting, being up on deck, getting information, when to provide that information, what sails to go up. You know, in our computer, even though a lot of this information we know intuitively, but the computer will help us make decisions on what sail to put up at what wind speed, what wind angle. So all this comes into play. So there's this constant communication about not only how are we doing relative to the other boats, what is our performance with the boat relative to its expected performance, and then again, you know, how are we sailing? We have ways of measuring performance and how someone's steering and how fast or slow the boat's going. So this is talked about all the time with zero ego, zero ego. And that's the key, because so many boats have individuals on board that think it's more about the individual than the team, and it has to be about the team.
Okay, I want to ask a question about weather, but I want to come back to that, because the question I want to ask is, if you've got this sort of in the zone, that's the term we kind of were talking about last week. If I'm playing golf, it's maybe 4 hours. If I'm playing baseball, it's a couple hours. My concentration level has to be sort of in a short period. I'm going on a 36, 38, 40-hour sail race. That's really hard to concentrate. As you just pointed out, you said when you have a job, you have a specific thing you're supposed to do when you're off your shift.
Exactly.
So how do you do all of this concentration? Or is it when you go down below to take your sleeping shift, you sleep, you unplug, and when it's time to come back, you plug back in?
Well, that's the whole idea behind watches and systems. And what we do is we have a system on this boat so that there's always 1 or 2 people coming up every hour. So it's not like a complete change of crews and so forth. It's pretty well thought out. But also I make it clear that do your job, whatever you're doing, as hard and as best you can do for 1 hour. I'm not expecting you to do it for 10 hours, 4 hours, or 7 hours.
Okay.
1 hour. And then you're going to take a break. If it's just closing your eyes, going below, or just sitting on the deck and relaxing, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But there has to be this focus, and then this get back together, and then back into the race.
So for the $1 million boat class, and all the 70 Santa Cruzes and the 52s, can that also be applied to the guys doing the shore cove on a 30 Catalina? And if he does, how does he think about it? Does he actually sit down and put it on paper? How does he, you know, scramble it out, and how does he go through it? When you sit down through it, and I have a couple of 52 pre-race events, one with Skip Diebel on Queen's Cup, such detail. Do I want to think about that if I'm just, you know, a more casual sailor? I'm not saying that the casual sailors don't want to win, but can they apply the same premise and process?
No, Greg, we talked about this. I think even the cruiser can apply the same process. This is what system sailing is about, is that you have enough systems so it takes anxiety away from you. It allows you to be confident, allows you to feel better about your experience on the water, because at the end of the day, that's why people are doing it. They want to have the most enjoyable experience possible. So the more systematic understanding of the processes, you'll just feel better about the race, and ultimately I think your performance will be better.
As a coach, I might have 1 kid out of 10 that looks like I can know going in, getting off the bus, he's got an issue. You're on the boat, you got 10 crew members, and there's one guy you know because you know him pretty well. He's just not plugged in. What do you do as a skipper? Do you do the same thing I do as a coach? And it might be an arm around him. It may be a brisk point. Is it? Do you toss that in as a skipper to somebody who might not, or are you paying that much attention to the process, or are you worried about your crew if you're the skipper of that group?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because surely one individual can absolutely ruin the whole system and ruin the whole chemistry on the boat. Because for me, if you have 10 people on board, if the team works with great chemistry, that's like having 15, 16, 20 individuals. So that is usually something you try to weed out before you race. You can usually see that during this practice period, that there's someone trying to stand out as more of an individual versus being a team member. But if in fact that happens during the race, yeah, you do exactly what you said. You just sit down with the person and just say, hey, look, we are in this together. This is a team fight, not an individual fight. I need you to do your very best because we respect you, like you, and want to race with you and be with you on and off the water. And 9 out of 10 times people will buy into that philosophy.
And before the beer flows, I always know in the big boats there's always a debrief. There always is a great debrief because you want to go over the stuff. And I think, again, the lesser level of sailors, racers, I don't think they do debrief. I think they're just happy to put the boat away, put the sails away, and head to the bar.
Yeah, and that's fine because, again, everybody has different expectations on their free time because people are doing this for fun. They're doing this for the experience. And a debrief could be as simple as having a beer or two at the Pink Pony and talking with your buddy and saying, hey, you know, we made a couple good moves there. Yeah, we probably could have done something better. But they're kind of debriefing in a real casual way. I like a little bit more systematic debrief so I can retain the information, write it down, and then ultimately share it with everybody afterwards. It just doesn't matter. As long as you just got that process of what did we do? Could we do it better? What's the next step?
All right. All of the racing information related to weather comes out of a big satellite in White Lake from NOAA. Mm-hmm. Every app, every television station, everything you know comes from one place, right? So I'm reading a story, and we're going to interview Phoebe Waller a little bit later in relationship, but I'm reading about a navigator on one of the 52s who starts building 12 weeks, or a week before the Big Mac race, he's building his own models. He has no meteorological degree, and maybe this is a hobby. So my question becomes, I understand how important weather is, but weather, if it's coming from the same place, is it somewhat a guesstimate versus the science of it, since most of the people on these boats are in fact not meteorologists? Yeah. And if all the information's come from the same place, how can you be better at something than I am?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So these models you speak of, this weather information, even though they're filtered through one place, they come from a variety of different sources from Europe, HHR. We got a variety of different models. And what our navigator did, Peter Griffin, is he would just bring them all up. And all I'm looking for is any agreement, some agreement, because a lot of times they're just all over the map. And if they're all over the map in disagreement, that just means it's going to be a fluky later race. You got to just trust your gut in a lot of decisions. But if there's some agreement, I'll give you an example. The second leg of this port here in Mackinac, we're sailing from Cove Island to Mackinac. We're just past the Ducks, and we're somewhat north of the lake like that. And all the models are saying, look, this wind is going to go from the north to the southwest at some point. They all agreed. So the whole time we're thinking about how do we get from here, north on the lake, to, quite frankly, south on the course. And just picking that right time to go because there was a complete agreement it was going to happen. We happened to pick the right time, and it worked out well for us. But again, that kind of information gave me a lot of confidence knowing that given that opportunity to get there, we're going to end up in a good spot.
We've been talking for 2 weeks about concentration and how that fits on the boat. And I can only think of a quick Bob Hughes story from Heartbreaker. And one morning, and this is 3 or 4 years ago, he said he told the crew that he needed to get down below and take a quick nap. He said that he all of a sudden woke up kind of and heard a lawnmower going. And he got up and picked his head up and realized they were only about a mile from shore. And they'd gone way too far east to come back, and nobody had paid attention to this. But if you can hear a lawnmower when you're in the lake, he says you're probably off course a little bit. And I say that because yes, a model from Europe in Barcelona doesn't help me if I'm in Lake St. Clair or Lake Huron. It's a model that comes here. And my only point is that Peter Eisler has a meteorological degree from his Ivy League school. Does that mean he understands weather better than us? Well, he might not understand it, but he can read maps better, maybe. right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think it's a little bit of a subjective process.
No question.
Because it's all coming from the same satellites.
Yeah, no, I get that, Greg. And again, it's all it provides for someone like myself is that level of confidence when you're making a decision. You still have to make a decision, and the decision isn't clear cut. None of the models, none of the routes will tell you, you sail here and you will win. No, all this stuff is just clues. But the key is to have enough clues so that you and your team get together and believe that you're making the best decision. That was the cool thing about being on this boat. Everybody on board, relative to the decision that was made, was behind it. There was no one on the rail going, I wouldn't do that, because I've been on a lot of those boats.
Okay, so last question, and kind of tie all of these 2 weeks together. We've had this great conversation. If somebody's listening, they kind of think, wow, where do I start that conversation if we've never done anything sort of that complex?
Yeah, it just starts truly with that first meeting. I try to encourage people in the winter time when you're trying to plan what your next summer is going to be, who your team's going to be, get together at someone's house and have that first meeting where you just introduce each other, talk about what everybody would like to do on the boat, and then how do we go from A to B to C to D, because the whole thing is like putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle, and every piece is equally important as all of them. So it starts with communication. It starts with that first meeting.
All right, well, that'll cover the last couple of weeks. The last 2 shows of the year, we're going to take Wally out and maybe have a conversation with Sailing for Dummies to think some things about in August and September, to think about over the winter to get ready for next year, and maybe some tips to some sailors who could use some tips to know everything they need to know.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died. I was a young journalist with a great career, starting a family. The only way we found out I had any kind of heart issue was when I went into sudden death. My coworkers sprung into action. They've recently been trained in life-saving CPR protocols developed by the American Heart Association. They're the ones that kept me alive until the medics came. They did many tests on me in the hospital after my cardiac arrest and created a treatment plan, all with research from the American Heart Association. I think unless you are a heart disease patient, you may not know how much work the American Heart Association does behind the scenes to save your life. Since my cardiac arrest, I've had 2 more children. I've watched all 3 of my children grow into adulthood. I'm gonna cry now. Graduate from college. My daughter got married. I have grandchildren, and I'm still here.
Learn more about the American Heart Association's work at helpheart.org.
Talking with one of the favorite guys on our show, Trey Sheehan. You've won your 2nd North American Tartan 10 championship here at North Cape Yacht Club. And 5th. It's obviously a fun thing. It's an enjoyable thing. But maybe talk about what it's like to win a 2nd championship. But more importantly, what do you like about the boat?
I grew up sailing Tartan 10s. Next door neighbor was the manufacturer of Tartan 10s. I wouldn't be sailing today if Tartan Marine wasn't my next door neighbor. And for me, it was really a natural thing. This, by the way, is our 5th championship. So we won in 2019 with all 3 of my kids. 2020, we didn't contest. 21, we sailed in Racine, won there. 22 was in Detroit, I believe. Didn't do so well there. 23 was in Cleveland, and we won in Cleveland, and we won, I guess 24 might have been Cleveland, and then this one. So, but I think it's the 5th one.
You won a 52, and this is just a question that pops in my head.
Yeah.
Answer, don't answer, but is it, you put the effort is the same on the 52 as this one? Is this one a sort of, you can take a breath and enjoy the day, or is it the same effort?
We put the exact same amount I put the exact same amount of effort, and the preparation for the boat is probably more extensive with the 52. There's more moving parts, more people. But with the Tartan 10, we're thinking about it all the time. We're thinking about the psyche stuff. We came in with a black Dacron main, which was a little bit different this year. It had people going, what's going on? Why do you have a black main? You can't have a black main. It's all about just having a good time and a little bit of gamesmanship. And they threw a great party here. We've had a wonderful time. I think that we enjoy and take this. This is a lot more easygoing, I guess is the way to say it. But there's a lot of people's businesses in the 52.
Yeah.
It's not ours. John and I love sailing the 52, but we also love punching each other in the nose in the J70 and in the Tartan 10. And he and my brother took it right to us this weekend. It's been a hell of a fight.
Your brother Michael wins the last race, but obviously you still win by, I think, about 12 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Like that,
10 or 11 points?
I didn't look. We were 11 points ahead this morning. So.
Is there a little wink at your brother, knowing that you got him again? I'll leave that alone.
No, of course there is. Listen, we work together every day, and you love your brother, but when we go out on the race course, I did a couple times. They tacked on us. I gave them the finger. They do a little bit of crap late night with the boats.
Okay, as you're looking at the screen now, you're going to see you in front of a blender with a vest on that we had originally introduced 2 years ago at Bayview.
That's right.
That was the first time I saw that.
That's right.
And we asked some questions. Yeah. You're now, in this picture, if you can see it, adorned with a, I don't know what you call it, but it's
a disco ball helmet.
Disco ball helmet. Mm-hmm. So my question is it a practical safety fixture when after you're done drinking, or is it just a sort of a decorative thing?
You have to protect the dome.
Okay.
And you just don't want it. Brain trauma is a big thing, and I fall down a lot.
Where does one get a helmet like that?
We bought them on Amazon.
Okay, so there are some good things.
It travels with us in the trailer. And the player of the day normally ends up wearing it. It used to be the dunce cap, and actually it ended up getting people more attention, so it now became kind of a badge of honor rather than a punishment.
Well, and I asked that because I was trying to think of, when I'm asking this question, I was trying to think of the word bedazzled, but it's
bedazzled, I think.
It's bedazzled helmet, and I hadn't seen that before in sailing.
Yeah.
So you have to be the first, and I say that because there's a lot of conversation lately about how old trophies are in sailing and those kinds of things. So this has to be the one of its only kind.
Well, the blender is a trophy. That actually is the Cape Canaveral first to finish, first overall, first uncorrected. The actual blender was the Hooligan Cup, and we were allowed to name the trophy, and it put a deed of gift together, and it's got Hooligan engraved on the side of the electric blender. It's a 3.5 horse.
Okay, so when you say Cape Canaveral, you're not referring to NASA, you're referring to the sailing Cape Canaveral.
We sailed to Cape Canaveral, went over to Nassau, up the coast, not to Nassau, up the coast of Bahamas, and then back over to Canaveral. Yeah.
Well, to finish out the season, congratulations on your win, and appreciate your time.
Fabulous time. Thanks.
We're talking with Mike Sheehan and John Evans. You just finished, obviously, the Tartan 10 Nationals, North American Nationals. You won the last race. You take second place overall. Correct. Talk a little bit about the race and your love of Tartan.
Tartan Marine. We grew up with Timmy Britton. Charlie Britton's son started Tartan Marine. So if it weren't for them, we probably wouldn't be racing. As kids, we grew up doing this. It's a nostalgic thing for both my brother and I to be involved with Tartan. And we love racing against each other. We grew up racing together and against each other. And as an offshoot of this, they bought Hooligan first. And then we wound up buying Talisman out of Chicago, brought it to Cleveland, named it Privateer. And then John, who has a J70 called Airplane, said, well, I want to come out and play on the Tartan 10. So we took his logo from Airplane, threw it over Privateer, and called it Private Airplane.
All right.
Yeah, so it's a combination of two teams.
Brother wins today. Trey obviously wins for a second national title.
Right.
You're the younger brother.
Yes.
I won't go into silver ring rivalry, but just out of curiosity, maybe a thought on it.
I'm thrilled for them.
Okay.
It's a good program.
And it's pretty obvious that you got the brains and the looks in the family, so that works out well. John, you're obviously involved with, not only with Hooligan, but you're obviously involved with the 52. So
Yeah.
this is more of a obsession probably for you than it is an avocation.
Yeah, I think so. Unlike Michael, I didn't grow up sailing, but I did grow up in Chardon, Ohio, about 10 minutes from Fairport Harbor, where these things were built. And so I think they're really cool to sail on these. With the 52, I sail on a J70 as well. I have more fun, I think, sailing in this class than anything. It's just a really fun group of people, and the boat is a fun boat to sail. So yeah, I really enjoy sailing with Michael and competing against Trey in the Tartan 10s. We do sail with each other on the 52.
Congratulations for second place.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're talking with Adam Prettyman, who's on a Tartan 10 here. We were obviously, Adam and I got into a conversation about the name of, and I'm looking at his shirt a little bit. Explain to me, explain to me what that is.
So the boat had disappeared for quite a few years.
The boat you're on?
In a shop, yep, the boat we're on, the boat we're sailing today. And we rebuilt it, took everything out of the inside, put everything back in, and we showed up in St. Petersburg. We did a 500-hour refit and towed the boat to St. Pete. We broke the axle on the way down there, fixed that. So we named the boat Ghost for St. Petersburg because nobody had seen the boat since 2012. And then we ended up doing Detroit Nude after that. And we called the boat Two Trailer Park Girls at the suggestion of a good friend of mine. The boat's coming back to Detroit, so it was like kind of like Slim Shady coming back to Detroit, 313. And the Trailer Park Girls were going around the outside. We finished second in Detroit. So.
All right, the obvious question, with the now mandatory for America's Cup and Sail GP, you have to have a female on board. With the name Two Trailer Park Girls, is that required to have two girls on board?
We sail often with mostly female crew, or at least 50%. So
okay.
Yeah, we enjoy having the ladies on board. They focus better than some of the boys.
Now this boat's based in Chicago, but you've been a real sort of silent cheerleader for the fleet, trying to go through the process. What is it you like about the boat so much?
It's a fairly affordable, big boat one design, and there's not a lot of them, right? I mean, the boats all go the same speed for the most part, and so it really makes you fight for it all the time.
So it becomes the best sailor.
Yeah, you're always chasing, and some of the guys Hooligan, I mean, they're top notch, right? But we're right there most of the time, so pretty excited to be here.
So Sunday afternoon, it's pretty fun over there.
You get directly behind us, you can see the sails.
Welcome back. We're on the boat Nuts, and we're going to have that conversation with Heidi Backus, who just completed the 2025 Tartan 10 North Americans, and you guys finished fourth. And explain to me the name of the boat to start with.
Okay, our first boat we bought was called Balls and All, and we wanted to keep the theme, and my mother hated the name of that boat, and we just lied to her about the way it was pronounced. We said it's Bale Snail. She goes, "I'm not stupid, I know what you said." So a bunch of guys owned that boat, and anytime anything went wrong, they go Balls and All. So then we sold that and got this boat, and we said, "Oh, we like that. We'll call it Nuts." So
Okay.
that's how we got the name.
I have a boat called Shit for Brains, so we should figure out shortening that name. So that'd be kind of cool too. So I'll cut that out, by the way, for what it's worth. So obviously we're at the Tartan 10 Championships. Talk a little bit about the race, and really what I'm interested in is what's so special about a Tartan to you, the Tartan 10?
Well, it's a great one design, big keelboat, and comfortable to race, and it's affordable, and I can bring my whole family on board.
Obviously, you're in fourth place tactically. How close is first to fourth?
Well, fairly close, but we don't have any professionals on board. We sail with amateurs.
Where are you a member?
I'm a member of Vermilion Boat Club in Vermilion, Ohio.
So you're an Ohio girl?
Yes.
Okay. What do you like about sailing on Lake Erie?
Well, I like the vast areas you can go. You can nice chop and different wind conditions, and it's a fun place.
You're also a former Rolex Sailor of the Year.
Yes.
So you've been doing this a while.
Yes.
Did you grow up sailing, I'm assuming?
Yes, I started when I was 10. We raced Jet 14s, and my sister Amy, who's the baby of our family, sailed with me, and we've sailed together since then.
Heidi, the obvious question is, when did it become an obsession? It's a standard question we ask a lot of those kinds of sailors. When did it become an obsession as rather than an avocation?
I'd say when I was 10.
Okay. Do you remember the time?
Yes.
Okay. No, I get that. I absolutely get that.
Yes.
And once you are infected with it,
yes,
it's
you want to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
So you work hard toward it.
We appreciate your time and congratulations on a 4th place finish.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Appreciate it. Wanted to take a couple minutes and just thank all the folks from North Cape that made the championship possible, the Tartan 10 North American, and certainly congratulations to Trey Sheehan, who edged out his brother Michael, and John Evans, who's his GL52 hooligan partner. So that was a fun sort of, we didn't get into a lot of sarcasm, but it was kind of fun to watch the way those guys operated. Again, congratulations as school starting. The kids are back in school, but Hadley and Charlotte had a great showing in San Francisco. We appreciate that, and we always appreciate Wally for what it's worth. Next week, coming this Saturday, something we're going to do is we're going to take Reliance, our boat, and we're going to spend some time working in the Crescent Regatta. We're going to kind of give you a first-hand view of what it looks like to see 3 or 4 or maybe 10. We're not sure how many people are coming. Some non-sailors involved in a regatta in the Jam, about a 7-mile race in Crescent's annual regatta. So we're going to try to give you a game-by-game blow of that, and that'll be some fun next week. And we'll be back hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday with that show. And for all the guys in back, we appreciate you spending time. So thanks.